If I had a crystal ball and I could look into this crystal ball and tell you guys exactly where your business opportunities lie looking forward, what is working in the future, what is not working in the future, things that we should totally eliminate, things that we should totally start doing in order to see your business grow and flourish. Imagine how amazing that would be. Guys, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have the next best thing. We've recently just launched our opportunity analysis, and the entire premise of this exercise is to help you guys understand where the holes in your bucket currently lie. Why is that important? Because we don't want to start filling a bucket that's leaking. Guys, for a limited time only, I'm going to be offering this as a free giveaway. It's $350, but for you site shedders, you're going to get it for free. You need to head across to tradie.wiki/grow and enter the code SiteShed to get it for nothing. Off the back of it, book a time to have a chat and we'll see where it takes us. We're looking forward to helping you and seeing where your opportunities lie. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello, listeners. Hello, viewers. Welcome back to the Site Shed podcast. You are joining us today for episode 3 of the Taking Aim with Vision, Mission and Values series that I'm creating with my co-host, Barry. Barry, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
I avoided your last name in this one just so I didn't butcher it. Barry's from the Game Changers and tradiebusinessschool.com. Guys, if you did miss the previous episodes within this series, go back and check them out. Episode 1 was about creating your vision statement. Episode 2 was about creating your mission statement. And we're bringing it to a full close today with episode 3, which is about designing your company values. They have been specifically designed to stem into each other. So you're probably going to get a bit more value out of listening to them in order. So that would be my advice. But Barry, welcome back. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
I know you're tuning in all the way from Bali, where you currently reside, much to my jealousy, I must say. But yeah, it's been a really good series. And I suppose at a glance, what we have been talking about is quite high level stuff. I think we spoke about in a previous episode. It's really about laying the foundations, and your awesome book, which you've written, guys. If you haven't yet read Barry's book, definitely head across to Amazon or head across to the show notes where you can get a free copy of it through a PDF. He's got a beautifully designed framework with step-by-step instructions in order on things that you should be working through within your business. We are touching on about 3 of those in this series, and today we're talking about company values. So, Barry, I'm just going to ask you, please, could you just run through the analogy that you ran through in the last couple of episodes, just to give people an understanding of what vision, mission, values are and where they kind of fit into the ecosystem of a business?
Yeah, look, the vision is the sunrise or the sunset. It's beautiful, although it's not something we can ever quite attain or capture, but it certainly inspires us to keep going. The mission is like our path up the mountain to get us closer to that sunrise or the sunset. It's funny enough, this morning, my partner actually hiked Mount Victoria here. She got up at 2:15 a.m., hiked the mountain to be up on the top before the sunrise. It's a beautiful, beautiful hike for any of you that want to visit Bali. But essentially, our mission is that hike up the mountain, and our values are the compass that let us know whether we're on course or off course to achieve the top of the mountain and move us closer to the vision. The vision helps to inspire us regardless of what happens, yet the mission is what helps us to tangify that inspiration and that work moving forwards. We spoke about in the previous episode that achieving goals never quite feel the way we thought they would, or the feeling never lasts too long. And that's the beauty about the vision. Is the vision is something that comes from deep inside of us and inspires us in any given situation, whereas the mission helps us to achieve some of that gratitude and appreciation of achievement. And what I want to speak to today about is the values. Our values are the thing that acts as a compass to lead us up the mountain. They help us to make better decisions. They help us to hire and manage staff incredibly well. And they're really one of the missing pieces that are required for us to build a business that works without us. You gave an example, Matt, in the last show about one of your staff that after you went and introduced the vision, mission, and values, was doing something that you hadn't asked them to do, and you asked them why they were doing it. And it's because they had been able to look at the vision, mission, and values and make a decision on their own in creativity to create something that would move the whole company towards that. And this is where and why values are so important, because although we want to build a systemized business, our values are what determines and empowers our staff to make decisions at any given moment that they know will align with a framework of the company. And what I haven't yet shared in this series is that, I believe businesses are their own entities, right? They're their own being, and vision, mission, and values give that being a life and give that being a framework and structure that allows it to grow. It's like you wouldn't go and feed a baby an apple, right? When they're born. There's a guidance and a framework and structure of how you need to nurture and nourish that child to grow it into an adult. Yeah.
Sure.
And business is exactly the same. And when we have this framework in place, it empowers your team between systems and process and vision, mission, values to operate your company effectively without you as the owner being there or having to answer every question.
Mm-hmm. Again, something we've been always evolving. I should quantify, but we've lately we have a technology in our business which enables us to reward or recognize team members based on our values. And so the software essentially, if somebody does something great in the business, we can go in there, we can give them these, kudos, which relate to a specific value that they have, showcased. And it's a really great way to constantly be bringing the values to front of mind, because every time someone does something great, and they'll just, and everyone has access to this. So, I'll log on, when I turn it back on, the computer back on after we finish this podcast, and I'll see the notifications will probably come up, and somebody would have given somebody a credit that relates to a specific value that we believe in. So it's really powerful, and if you can kind of gamify it a bit like that, it does a couple of things. First, it keeps it front of mind, so they know they should be operating within these values, and second of all, they're far more likely to abide by them if they're enjoying the process, and they're sort of getting some sort of recognition for it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
What's the software?
It's called Daily Bot. It's probably going to be pretty useless to the listeners out there, but I can try and show the viewers out there what it looks like. But essentially, it's a tool here, and every morning at 9 a.m., we have like these stand-up meetings which come out to the group, and everyone checks in. But if we go into this one here, which is kudos, we can basically give people, so we've got all of our values that live within here, 10 values right here.
Wow.
And we can basically give people kudos based on things they've done, which you can see here. There's a whole bunch of them. So based on leadership, and always improving, accountability, so on and so forth. So it's really cool. It's just a way, it's a little fun thing, but again, it sort of keeps it front of mind. And I see the values anyway, because it lives within our wiki and our project management space, front of mind. But yeah, it's a good way to, we found it's been working really well.
Yeah, I love it. Nice.
So yeah, anyway. Yeah, so like you were saying, they're sort of there to define the boundaries of which they can operate within. So without values, without clearly defined values,
yeah,
what are some of the obvious or some of the more common things that tend to slip by the wayside?
Yeah, our vision is the why, our mission is the what, the values are the how. So without clearly defined values, like how are you hiring? Like how are you basing decisions on hiring good staff? How are you performance managing your staff? How is your team able to make basic decisions outside of systems and processes that they know align to the business, right? Our values are almost like the DNA that keeps the business going. And to some degree too, Matt, they kind of form our boundaries, right? Like we're all the time teaching people how to treat us. So if you pick up your phone at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning to a client, you've unconsciously given that client permission and let them know that you're available for their call at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. And so in many ways, our values act as boundaries as well. And they help us to identify and understand how to interact with the world around us and how we want to be interacted with, right? They help us to vet and screen clients. Like you mentioned before, a lot of businesses just take on board clients because they're there and because they pay well. But are they clients that you actually enjoy working with? Do they fit this? Like, would you take them out and have a drink with them at the pub on a Friday night, right? Do they believe what you believe? This is where they come in. Like, I don't know about you, but I want to surround myself with like-minded people, with people I enjoy being around. And that's where they can come into place and creates a lot more harmony within the workplace as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. I mean, when you're starting out in business, you tend to take the work you can get to keep the bills paid and keep the doors open. But as you develop in business, you certainly design that avatar a lot more with who you want to work with. And I'll tell you, one of the most satisfying moments I think in history is the first client you fire.
And then noticing that 5 more ideal clients walk in the door straight afterwards. It's a funny thing. I was chatting to a mate of mine here in Bali who had been dating, and he was kind of, dating early stages, 3 girls at the same time. And I had a conversation with him and I was like, do you feel in your heart that any of these are long-term prospects? And he said, no. And I was like, well, why the fuck are you wasting your time? Right? I was like, all you're doing is consuming your time, your energy, your attention, your focus. And to some degree, you're leading them on, right? You're preventing them from finding someone that's a long-term match for them. And I was like, the cool thing is, I honestly believe that the universe always says yes. And so if you're tolerating these people being in your life that are not long-term fits because you're lazy, you're lonely, whatever the case may be, you're not tuning the universe to send you those that are a long-term fit. And he's like, you're right. And he wrote to me yesterday. He's like, you wouldn't believe it. I told these women that I didn't feel as long-term fit. And then this woman turned up the next day. There was like such a ridiculous fit. And it's the same with clients.
Yeah.
Right? Think about this. Like, if you let your staff come in consistently late, you're telling them it's okay to not value your time. If you let your sales team sign clients that aren't the right fit for your business, you're telling them that you care more about money than quality, right? If you let clients dictate to you your terms of projects, you're telling them that you don't value your work highly, right? It also signals that there's an underconfidence or maybe underqualification in what you provide. The values that we choose to uphold as business owners form our boundaries, and our boundaries form our standards. If we're willing to compromise our standards, like my mate was, you're actually saying to everyone around you it's okay for them to do so too. And this is why, as a business owner, like, you're all the time unconsciously signaling your staff what is okay. It's the same with bringing up kids. Our children learn a lot more, not by what we say, but by what we do.
Don't tell me, show me.
Yeah. So, like, if we sweep our values under the rug, basically what that means and what you're saying to your staff is it's not okay to operate at a standard you want them. It's okay for them to operate at whatever standard they want because, you don't respect integrity. You don't respect your values. So why should they? Sure.
And so I was saying to this only recently to my wife, like the importance. I mean, I have a 2-year-old, right? Like, she's little. We've got one on the way, but the importance of her seeing dad go to training and mum go to training, and the importance of her, seeing daddy go to work and, working towards things and explaining to her why we're doing things and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know for certain. I've never been a parent before, but I mean, I know for sure that, like, that is an important. I mean, you would know, your children are older than mine, but like, I think those, like, them being able to see you do those things is a very important role in parenting.
Absolutely. Look, I no disrespect to my parents at all. They're amazing. Did a phenomenal job growing me up with what they had and what they knew. I wasn't never taught boundaries, and so therefore, growing up, I never respected anyone else's boundaries because I didn't know what boundaries were. I didn't have them for myself. So therefore, to my sphere of knowledge or understanding, I couldn't see them in other people.
Sure.
And that also came through in my kids earlier on, because it was only something that I developed more recently. And yet something that we've brought in here is that me and my partner have 1 or 2 nights away from each other and the family a month, just for us. She's currently hiking down for tour. I won't see her till Wednesday. And that was initially a bit jolting for my kids in the beginning. They didn't understand why. They thought that, we'd had a fight or something was amiss. Yet the cool thing that I've noticed over the months of doing this is that through us honoring space for us and time out for us, we've actually unconsciously given them permission to do the same thing. And we're seeing that in them where they are like, hey, I'm going to have some time in my room. Please don't disturb me. We've noticed it in them asking for what they want, in them speaking up. It's like, oh, hey, Dad, Sunday we're doing arts and craft. And my youngest said, hey, I'd really appreciate if you guys put your phone away for the next 2 hours while we do arts and craft. And I'm like, wow, like he never would have asked for that. He's 10 years old. He never would have asked for that a year ago.
Nice.
But he's asked for that not because we told him he can, but because we've shown him he can.
A good mentor friend now of mine always taught me everything duplicates for better or worse. Yeah. And it's so true.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of summarize before we dive in a little bit more specifically, when we're clear on our values and live by them, cutting out the stuff that doesn't fit, we'll start to see the opportunities that the universe is putting in front of us. Because as I said before, I strongly believe the universe, God, whatever you want to say, gives us what we ask for, not what we want. And sometimes we don't ask from a place of what we say, but of what we do, right? It's more unconscious. And so one huge thing I noticed in my life is the more that I started working with, cleaning up my integrity in areas that I was out of integrity, the more I started working with putting clear boundaries in place and honoring them within myself, which sometimes means having hard conversations with others, right? To do what's right by you. The more I noticed that every area of my life started to improve and I started getting more of what I wanted, right? And what was meaningful for me. Our values are our business's DNA. So in order for us to create a business and to create a strong culture or that strong genetics in our company, we need to have the vision and mission in place, but we need to start looking at what are our values. And I think that 3 to 5 is a really good number. I think any more than that, and it gets very, very hard to manage it and for them to be alive in the company. What I mean, you gave a perfect example, Matt. Your values are alive in your company. You have practices in place that cause your staff to engage with the values daily, not monthly when you talk about them, daily. So your values, the ultimate goal, I think the gold standard is when your team knows the values off by heart, but so do your clients. Your clients know what you stand for. They know your values and they align with them too.
Yeah. And the only way that'll ever happen is if you communicate them and make it obvious. I think a lot of people, in truth, making that decision to make them public is quite confronting because it's like, for example, if you're on a fitness regime and you wanted to lose 10 kilos, you can keep that inside, not hit your goal, and it doesn't make any difference, right? But as soon as you go and tell someone, the minute you don't do it, hopefully they'll call you out.
Man, I remember a number of times my staff called me out for not honoring values.
Nice.
Right? But it was cool. I was like, damn, this is awesome. That's when you know that you become alive. And think about it like this, like the fish rots from the head down, inside out. And so when we have values that are alive and in place and we're using that to manage performance, it's no longer personal, right? I remember when I had to fire people years ago without values in place, they were tough conversations. Whereas now to let go of a staff member, most of the time when you sit down and talk to them, they realize they're not a fit for the company and the culture, right? When you're speaking to them, that they make the decision to leave without having to fire them or let them go. And then it becomes a conversation of working with them to find a role that fits them outside your organization. Right? How cool is that? How cool is that serving your employees in such a way that they realize and you realize it's not a fit, but then you work with them to find something else that is, rather than like, hey, Matt, you're doing a shit job. You're always late. You're not performing very well. You're costing me a lot of money. You're fired.
Yeah, totally agree. I think it gives you boundaries in which you can both reward people or recognize people. And then on the flip side, it gives you those boundaries in which people know that if they step outside of them, it's compromising company values. Easy decision. I agree. It's
absolutely. So I guess like you, the listener, the viewer, ever sat down to work out what your personal values are? Now, the easiest way to do this, I remember I went and saw Dr. John Demartini many, many years ago, and he's like, well, your values are easy. Just go and print out a statement of your bank account and look at where majority of your money is going. That shows you what you're valuing. Order your time. Look at where you're spending most of your time. That shows what you value. Sit in your office or your bedroom or the favorite room in your house and look around, right? What is there the most of? That's what you value, right? And there's not really a difference between personal values or business values, but I want to talk through what I think is the easiest process to elicit your values. Because when I started this, I like made up words that I thought I wanted to live by. But man, that was when I was getting called out because it wasn't congruent. It wasn't who I was. It was what I wanted to be or what I thought I wanted to be, but it wasn't who I was. So,
but I mean, with that said, what's wrong with creating values around what you want to be? Like, isn't that a way to elevate? Did I misunderstand that?
You would think so. Yes. Right. You would think so. However, like
I'm not going to create values around being a fat slob that sits down and watches
I was just about to say, right? So you're heavily overweight, you eat shit food, don't exercise, and you're like, I'm going to create a value around health and well-being, right? That's not sustainable. You can get there, but you're swimming against the current for a long time to get there. What about starting to value 15 minutes of exercise a day, or starting to value slowly reducing your calorie count? What I found is that, like the questions we went through in Vision and Mission, is that there is already things that you're doing, regardless of how you picture yourself, there's already things that you're doing that are solid values and that are values for success. But sometimes you need to dig down to understand what they are, right? Through the perception that we have of ourselves. Because a lot of people, let's be honest, a lot of people don't think of themselves that good. There's a lot of this self-talk, negative self-talk that goes on. A lot of people, most people, in fact, unless you've done a shitload of work, look at themselves and judge themselves with the way they show up, for what they say, for what they do. Yet all of us, in our heart of hearts, we have values that can create success. And so, yes, you can create these things that you would like to get to, but more importantly is why. Why is that important to you? And if you click clear on what the why is, Matt, will do far more to moving you towards that place than creating a value around that.
Sure. I mean, this exercise alone could be quite a confronting and polarizing experience for a lot of people if they've never done it before, because I mean, I know for myself even, it did put things in perspective. I was like, well, like I'm okay at this, but I need to get better at it.
Yeah. The easiest way that I found, I've been going through trying to elicit values for probably 10 years, to be honest. And it was only maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I think it was even after I'd written the chapter on values that I found an even easier way. And that was essentially sitting down with, at the time I had senior management. If you have senior management, sit down with them. If you're a sole trader or you've got maybe you and an apprentice, don't do it with the apprentice because there's a good chance they're not going to be around in 10 years' time. So there's no point in them having an influence on what the values are going to look like. Do it yourself.
Sure. And there's a good chance that your apprentice's values may not typically align with a established business.
Correct. Right. So use a little bit of common sense here. But the easiest way is sit down and write out. The way I started was just look at people that I admire, right? First of all, look at people that I admire or that inspire me, and what values would I say that they have? Look at friends or family or people in my life that inspire me or that I feel are awesome, and what values do I think they have, right? What values do I see within myself? And also write down what values do I think we would need to have as a company organization to achieve our mission. Now, I tend to steer away from values of like trust and integrity because to me, they should go without saying, right? They should go without saying. But if they're still there for you, write them down. And then we go through a process called keep, kill, and combined. This is my favorite. Once you get to 20, 30, 40 words, go on first work out, is there any words there that you can kill, right? Or is there any words there you can combine? Words that might have a similar meaning for you.
Yeah.
Right?
They'd be next to each other in the thesaurus.
Right. So that's kind of where you would start, is working out, well, what are some of these words that have similar meanings for me? Now, for argument's sake, it might be things like, space, freedom, creativity, appreciation, gratitude. For me, when I went through and did my values, those words connected. Now, for you might see no connection between space and gratitude. That's okay. That's you. I'm not making my values for you, Matt. I'm making it for me. If we look at maybe wealth, wealth, abundance, leverage, passive income, contribution, right? See if you can combine certain words. Don't worry about how many are there, but just put them next to each other. And what are words you want to keep? So there's words that are most meaningful. There's words that you combined, and then there's words that you kill off. Once you've kind of, I guess, continued to put words together, to where you have like a maximum of 5 sets of words. Look through all the words in each set, which word summarizes all those words, or which word has the most energy or the most power or the most clarity in it for you. And that's how I got to my personal values. That's how we got to our company values, was just brain dumping everything and then kill and combined.
I'm glad that you went through that, because that's the process that I went through with the company values. I had to clearly define my own first, which helped me define the business ones. And that was, I was honestly stuck on it for a long time until I did that.
Yeah. It's made a huge difference. As I said, like you can, when I mentioned before about looking at your bank account, looking about how you spend your time, that's kind of looking at what you currently value, right? But like you shared before, we do want some movement in that. But this process, see how going through that process, like where I've ended up with the words, I'm not saying, oh, hey, like I want to be more wealthy, so I'm just going to say my value is wealth. I've actually gone through a process to pull wealth up as a value, which therefore has more meaning, connection than something that I aspire towards. It's something that I've brought through and out of myself. And a really important point when we're looking at vision, mission, values, I've said a few times, is just to brain dump and trust what's coming through. Don't try to get it perfect.
Sure.
The way I kind of share it's like this, that if we don't trust our heart or intuition, then if we don't trust our heart, we don't trust our intuition. And that essentially means we're untrustworthy.
Right.
This is not about Googling online at what other people's values are, what their vision, mission are. It's about trusting what our intuition is, because I solidly believe that business is a spiritual journey, that a business will never outgrow the founder, and that the far greatest tool in growing a business is not the book, The Path to Freedom, or any book that you read. It's building a relationship with yourself. It's building a relationship with your intuition, with your gut instinct, with your in knowing, and trusting and following that. That's a far greater weapon than any sales strategy or any system or process you'll get anywhere in the world.
Sure. And essentially being able to answer and define what that is, I think, like whatever that example was you gave before, which you didn't like, but if you're able to define that to yourself and explain why that is an important thing, then that's important, So integrity for us means we say what we do what we're going to say. Like we can define what that is, So the word is irrelevant.
Right. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that how many places have you gone into that have this vision, mission, value statement on the wall, and their values are like trust, affordability, integrity, and you read them and there's no feeling behind them because they haven't done the work to understand the meaning behind it. Whereas what you've just articulated with integrity, it's like there is energy, there is feeling, there is meaning behind the descriptor, which brings that value to life.
Yeah, I love it.
I was just going to say a couple of things to wrap off. Like we attract people who identify with our values, right? There's no coincidence that you don't see billionaires hang out with homeless people or vice versa, because likes attract likes. So the more that we define this stuff, the more that we end up building a team around the common vision, mission, values that help us to achieve it.
Yeah.
These elements, these 3 elements we spoke about are the DNA of our business. They will attract incredible talent. They will attract amazing clients, and they will see the business weather far greater storms than what you ever have to date and succeed in spite of them, as opposed to chasing a materialistic monetary goal, which is still okay. I'm absolutely not against that. Like I love money. However, there is a far greater motivator in understanding why you're doing what you're doing than just because I want to earn $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like I want to earn $1 million is the outcome of doing things progressively, right? Like people make this mistake all the time when they're setting goals about, I want to make $1 million next year. You're like, that's not it's not really the goal. You got to define how you get there. That making $1 million it comes as a result of doing something or a series of things over the course of a certain period of time, which will result in that outcome.
It's a byproduct.
It's a byproduct, exactly.
Where you're at right now, you might focus on money. That's fine. However, you will get to a point where that focus no longer sustains you. You hit a brick wall. You get enough money that you get lost. You start sabotaging to kind of recreate the pain of not having money. But the vision, mission, values is something that will continue to burn and continue to allow your business and your life to grow far beyond what you can see right now.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, I love it. Are we good to wrap up then, do you think?
Let's do it. I guess, for anyone watching, listening, that they're wanting more specifics, step-by-step how-tos, make sure you get a copy of the book. After every chapter, I break down a very, very easy and intuitive process to go through and get this done. And just remember that progress is far more important than perfection.
I love it. Barry, thanks so much for your time. For you listeners and viewers out there, you have just been listening to the third and final episode of the Take Aim with Vision, Mission and Values series. I'm joined by Barry from the Game Changers. Go back and check the other episodes out too. This, as I said, that was the third episode of a three-part series. So go check out part one, which is on the vision statement, part two, which is on the mission statement. I will put links to all of Barry's stuff within the show notes, guys. So you haven't got to worry about scribbling things down. Just head across to the siteshed.com, find these podcasts, and everything will be in there. Barry, thanks so much, man. I look forward to collaborating again in the future. This has been a load of fun. And as I touched on, I think in the first episode, this is but one small part of a lot of the things you guys teach and communicate through both the books and I'm sure your program. So I encourage all you listeners and viewers out there to go and implement, go and take the next step and go and do your own research and go and get your hands on some of these things. Mate, I guess that's a wrap.
Yeah, thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate you having me on the show. And thank you all who have watched or listened to the last 3 episodes as well.
Absolutely, mate. All right, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.